Hello and welcome to the Success Showcase. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin, and with me as always is Chip Janiszewski from the Happiness and Success GPS. Chip, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Eric. How about you?
Doing fantastic.
Yeah,
As
we're getting
we
ready for our first measurable snow since December 12th. I talked to somebody this morning who does snow plowing, and that is the only time this winter that he has done snow plowing. And this is New England. And it's not like if we had had normal temperature, we wouldn't have a whole lot of snow because we've had a whole lot of rain. But we're looking at 4 to 8 inches in Connecticut tonight. So all of you people out there who plow snow and go skiing and stuff like that, I'm really, really happy for you.
Yeah, it's been a mild winter for those in New England, not so much around the country though. California has had massive winter storms, and in fact over the last couple days they've had blackouts going up and down the state. So they weren't ready for the winter storms.
Yeah, I mean, they're not set up to handle those types of things. So fortunately, we are.
Absolutely. So, over the last couple of episodes, we've been talking about defining your brand, defining your why. Today, we're going to look at the business end of things and talk about defining your customer. And the reason we're talking about this is because I've heard a couple of new business people say this over the last several weeks. Who's your ideal customer? Well, anybody.
Hmm.
And as much as we'd like that to be true, it simply isn't. Anybody is not your customer. You have to know who your customer is in order to reach them. And there are some very basic things that you need to keep in mind to start off with. And the first one is, what is the price of your product or service? Because right there, your customer has to be able to afford that price. So right there, you're narrowing the field of who your customer is.
Yeah, and basically, I mean, what this is all about. I mean, we talk about preparing for networking meetings, and what that is preparing an effective networking commercial, which is what's your value added, who is it for, who do you need to meet, and so on and so forth. And that's basically what we're talking about here. You need to do this just to go into business, and if not, then I mean, obviously, you can't be everything to everybody. The more specific that you are, and that is a function of doing your homework to identify exactly what specifics you're looking for. It's really, really important. So I mean, looking up like a definition of what is a customer avatar, I came up with a customer avatar or a buying persona is essentially a profile of the perfect customer or client. When you understand who your ideal customer is, what they look like, their habits, their interests, challenges, aspirations, in fact, everything about them, you'll be much more effective in marketing to them. Obviously, a big part of that is what you just mentioned is what's their price, because obviously there are certain services that can be inexpensive for certain people, but if you're doing it on a grand scale, they're going to cost a whole lot more. So
Absolutely. And the customer avatar is a very useful tool. And to simplify it as much as possible, it is simply a description of who your customer is. And a good customer avatar can be so specific that you actually name the avatar. So, Fred could be your avatar. And Fred is, Caucasian male, ages 25 to 34, whose hobbies include video games, baseball. This is the sort of thing. You want a demographic description of your customer, and you also want a psychographic description of your customer. And I'm finding more and more people are actually not familiar with psychographics. Demographics people generally know age, gender, place of birth, where they live. But psychographics are their habits, it's what their interests are. And that tends to be more important because when people are buying, they buy things that interest them. So if you know the interests of your ideal customer, that makes it a lot easier. And if you've already been in business, creating an avatar is not that difficult. Literally take a look at your existing customers and see what they have in common. And that becomes your customer avatar.
Yeah, absolutely. The psychographics are really, really important because, as you mentioned, I mean, it's basically what people like, people that they want to deal with, and that kind of thing. And basically, some of the steps as far as identifying your perfect customers is, identifying, if you can identify your customers' goals, what their values are, their fears and their likes and dislikes, similar to what you just talked about. This is all in the category of psychographics. It's really, really important to do that. Also, understanding those people, understanding what their decision-making process might be, because people have different ways of making decisions on things. And if they're buying a particular product, they may attract somebody who's more detailed of things, whereas another product that you're doing may be more impulse-based, that type of thing. So these are all things to take into consideration. And as you said, one of the best ways to do this, if you have been in business, is to list who your best customers and your worst customers have been, the people that you want to deal with and the people that you don't want to deal with. And obviously the people that come out at the top of the list, write down why, figure out exactly what we're talking about here, and then go online and identify more people like them. I mean, this is what we talk about in networking. If you can go to a networking meeting and mention somebody by name, as far as a customer goes, even if the people there don't know that person, they may know somebody similar who has similar demographics and interests and so on and so forth, and say, hey, how about this person? So do your homework up front. It's good for your business, but it's also good for when you're asking out in the networking world and things like that.
And actually, what you're describing, that person that you want to meet through networking, that is a live customer avatar. That is the person you're trying to meet because you think that is the ideal customer. So when you bring that up to a referral source, they might not know that person, but they may know people with those criteria. The people that are just like your customer avatar. And that's why it's so important to understand those characteristics. And it's also important to realize that the key characteristic you're looking for could come down to one intangible psychographic. I had this conversation with someone about my business not too long ago. We have different services and different products, and each of them is geared demographically to different people along their career and business paths. But all of our customers have one thing in common, and that is desire. They have a desire to change their life. They have a desire to change their business. They have a desire to change the world. I describe this by stealing a line from Steve Jobs. These are people that want to make a dent in the universe. And that one characteristic is what all of my clients have in common. So that's who I look for. So even though you do want to put together a complete customer avatar so you can be as specific as possible, if you know it comes down to one factor, you should be able to tell people about that factor. You should be able to describe to people how they'll recognize that factor in people.
Yeah, going over some of the points as far as in order to build a customer avatar, I mean, basically what you're talking about is if you can identify the goals and the values of your potential customer and cater to those. I mean, if you hit a touch point with them right there, that's where you have one. Another fun thing, obviously, I use my old friend Forbes, always comes up as far as articles go on different things for customer avatar. And so there was a quote in one of them that says, your ideal customer avatar is a customer profile that is a best case scenario for your business. So perhaps it's someone who is a big spender, okay, has a lot of money, or a regular who consistently returns. Obviously, repeat business is wonderful. And then very, very important, someone who speaks well of your business within their networks, or all three. If
Yep.
you have three things like that there, again, these are different things, you folks out there. If you take a look at your customers, take a look and kind of categorize them. Are they big spenders? Do they care about what you do, or are they really penny pinching you? Or also, do they constantly return? Are they great repeat customers for your business if that's the type of thing that you do? And most importantly, if they're speaking well about your business, what you've done is, by serving your customer well, you've actually created an extra salesperson out there to refer business to you. So these are really, really important points. And if you just have a couple of measuring things that you have for your customers and identify your customers that have the best, take those measuring points there and apply them to the different people that you may be looking for, and put those in your commercials. When you're talking one-on-one with people, tell them, I mean, my best customers are these, and this is why. And what you may be doing is actually helping them out and identifying their customer avatars too.
Exactly. And, when you're looking at your customer, you are looking for a loyal customer. If you sell things on a repeat basis, you want folks who are going to come back over and over again. And that is so important, because the fact of the matter is, a loyal customer isn't going to come to you for the lowest price. They're going to come to you because they identify with what you're doing. And in fact, this is one of the reasons we talked a few episodes ago about finding your why, because the ideal customer is going to be attracted to your why. And Simon Sinek, who popularized, finding your why with his book Start With Why, and then again with Find Your Why, uses Apple computers as an example. And I will use one caveat: is the Apple he used was the Apple under the auspices of Steve Jobs. The company has gotten away from these practices now, and they're starting to see problems because of it. But Steve Jobs pushed forward Apple's why. It What they did was build computers. Well, there were loads of companies that built computers. Why did Apple have such a loyal audience? Because of the attention to detail, because of the attention to design. This was what attracted their ideal customer. Their ideal customer was never going to buy a gateway computer. And that's how they differentiated themselves. And you need to differentiate yourself the same way, by figuring out who your ideal customer is and speaking to them as nobody else can. Your why is going to attract them to you because they have a similar why.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, basically, if you have similar whys, things are going to work out best for both of you, as opposed for people who are just buying on price and things. I mean, basically what you do is you develop with your best customers a comfort level where they just know that whenever they're looking for your service, they just go to you and it's a done deal. They don't have to worry about it. They don't have to waste time thinking about who else can help them out and so on and so forth. It's just there. It's a security blanket type thing. So your best customer, in a lot of ways, is a customer who's looking for comfort in dealing with the people that they're buying products and services from.
Exactly. And, you can't, there are so many businesses that try to compete on price, and they will find that a price conscious consumer is not a loyal consumer. If somebody else can beat your price, they're not going to come back to you if that's all you're offering them. And in fact, businesses found this out the hard way when dealing with Groupon. Groupon was very big a couple of years ago. Businesses were offering all sorts of deals. The problem was, in order to offer a Groupon deal, one, you had to offer the customer a deep discount, and Groupon took a cut out of what you were selling the offer for. So you were making very little money. The idea was, oh, well, we'll get them into the store, we'll get them to try the product, and they'll keep coming back. Groupon's customers were not loyal. They were price conscious. They were just looking for the cheapest price. So unless you had another Groupon in which you were probably losing more money, they didn't come back. Now you don't hear much about Groupon anymore because businesses don't want to offer deals through them because they're not gaining customers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Groupon, great way to open up the door, but as far as helping them to develop loyalty in the long term, it's not going to work out. I mean, basically, one of the big measuring things for who is your best customer is to take a look customer by customer. What is your time invested spending time with the customer to do what you're doing for them versus the return you're getting from them? And if they are high maintenance, even if they're giving you the business, but you have to take 3 times as long to do the same job that it takes you to do for other people, these are not people that you want. So you really have to take a look at what your time investment is there. And obviously your emotional investment too, because you want to deal with people that you know, like, and trust, just like that's what customers are looking for and who they're buying from.
Yeah, that's something that most business owners don't take in mind. When a customer calls you, you should be happy to take their call. When they come into your store, when they come into your office, when you have a conference with them, you should be happy that you're talking to them. We've all had customers that the phone rings, you see their phone number, and your first thought is, oh God. That's because these are not your ideal customer. You may have taken them on when you were just starting out and you were afraid to turn away business, or that you may have grown apart where your services are not a good fit for them anymore. But you do need to keep that in mind. And periodically, yes, you need to fire customers.
Yeah, absolutely. That was what I was writing down as you were talking. I mean, if it gets to a point where it's not working out, it's really time to just say, hey, look, I mean, obviously things aren't going that well between us right now. And it's probably best if you find somebody else if you're disappointed in the way I'm doing this, and whatever. In fact, you might even want to refer them to somebody else. I'm not talking about dumping your problems on other people. But it's that's if it's not working, basically what you should be able to do if you're in business and doing very well is to be able to choose the people that you want to work with. And basically the best way to do that once you get to that stage is just set your price and what you're giving customers right there. If they say yes, great, we can talk further. If they say no, then obviously you're probably better off seeking somebody else. And maybe there's somebody that does the same thing you do that is geared more towards working with people like that, because people have different personalities too. So
Absolutely. And what you just said about setting your price is very important, especially when you're dealing on a project basis or a service basis where you're customizing your price to the needs of the customer. There have been customers I have had over the years where I have added in what I call a PITA charge. That's PITA, and it's pain in the
there you go.
yes. And and I've added that in. And if that made the cost of my service too high for them, so be it. If they were willing to pay it, then I was willing to stick it out because, I was getting paid that extra fee basically to deal with the problems I knew would come up.
That's pretty cool. As long as you don't put that as a line item on your
No, it's not a line item. You never put that in as a line item. It's based on the core price,
it's a quote unquote service charge is sometimes
right. Yes. Yeah. But sometimes you need to do that. And we also, another reason that you really need to understand who your customer is because your competition is not so far away anymore. It used to be that a business would define their customer aside from demographics and psychographics within a specific location, because either you had to ship a product, via truck or delivery service, or you wanted them to come into your location. Now you can set up a store online. UPS and FedEx ship around the world, and shipping costs are, manageable, so that you're no longer looking at just customers within, say, a 30 block radius of your store. But by the same token, they're no longer looking at retailers and businesses just within a 30 block radius of where they are. Your competition is now in your customer's pocket because they can pull out their phone and look up who your competition is, and they can price check right there, which is why, competing on price is not a good idea, because if that's all you're doing, they can go online, find a cheaper price, and order before they even leave your location. You want to be focused on service and quality. And there is a big difference. Go into a Home Depot, and I have nothing against Home Depot, I shop there often, but trying to find somebody that has knowledge about what product you need to complete your project is very difficult. Go into a neighborhood hardware store, though, and generally the people there will know exactly what you need. Why? Because the neighborhood stores generally cannot beat Home Depot on price. So they have to offer service. They have to provide that knowledge. And smaller businesses generally are more knowledgeable about their products and services because they have to be. They have to be able to offer that added incentive to their customers. And their customers are the ones that want that service. If you are an expert on wine, you can go into one of these huge liquor stores, find the wine you want, and walk out with it. If you don't know anything about wine, you go into a smaller store and you ask, and they will be able to tell you, well, are you looking for something a little fruitier? Do you want a red or a white? And they can take you through it because they train their people to do that. Again, why? Because they are competing on service.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would imagine that a lot of businesses out there would much rather deal with people. And I know this really exemplifies you and me. We're all into our value added and what we do for people as far as helping them solve a problem, making them better, and so on and so forth, versus the money side of thing. Because the bottom line is, if we provide our services the way we need to the people that we want to provide them to, the compensation is going to be there. So neither you or I, as far as our customer avatar, are going to want people out there who are price shopping and getting every single thing
Right.
out there. Most of you people out there who are in business see those people also. So I mean, again, getting back to firing your customer or going after some other type of customer, if you stick to your guns as far as exactly what you are going to be charging for what you're doing for them, and you stick to that, that's the best thing you can possibly do. And if the people are out there and they want a penny pinch, they'll probably find somebody to serve them too. So it's really, really important, as far as I'm concerned, to make sure that you're having a good experience dealing with people who fall into the reason that you have your why, as opposed to looking for deals and looking for this and that, whatever. So something to keep in mind. And the other thing is in modern times now, especially since the pandemic, take a look at what you're doing. And it's a perfect opportunity through Zoom and through other means, if your services can go anywhere, for you to expand your customer base, just because we have the technology to do that right now. So if you used to just deal locally and so on and so forth, but you have a product or service that you can take farther out, obviously research how to do that and so on and so forth. But the opportunity has never been better to expand. And obviously expanding means that you have a whole lot more potential customer avatars out there that were never there before because they had to be local.
Absolutely. Something else to keep in mind, we talked earlier about when you're defining your customer avatar, what their interests are. There is a growing number of businesses that get their customers not necessarily just because of the service or product they're offering, but because of what else they do. There is a local donut shop. Now, quite frankly, I would go to this donut shop anyway because they have the best donuts I've ever tasted. But what got us interested to try them is because we found out a percentage of every sale goes to support veterans. It's a veteran owned store. So we were interested in supporting that. So we decided to try their donut. Now, as it turns out, their donuts were better than any other donuts I've tasted anywhere locally. So they hit us with the quality of their product and the cause they were supporting. And that's something else. It's, again, why we discussed finding your why. Their why was to support veterans. They were veterans. They wanted to support people who were going through what they went through, and there's a large community of people that want to do the same thing. So, if you don't think you can differentiate, if you're offering a product that's essentially a commodity, there are other ways to differentiate yourself by the causes that you support, by what you believe in, because that's going to attract customers that believe the same things, that are again attracted to your why.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point that you make, because no matter who you are, I'm sure most people out there in some way or another want to give back and help others out. And most people say,
Yep.
how can I do that? And so if there are businesses out there, more and more of them are popping up. I mean, we have a place in town here that's just amazing that was started out for that very reason, and basically has handicapped people working for them, greeting people with coffee and so on and so forth. And it's just amazing. And I would rather go there for a coffee meeting than any place else, just because of their why and what they're doing. So if you have a really, really good cause attached to your business, that is definitely going to attract a whole lot of people out there, because basically even penny pinchers and everybody else out there has a lot of good in there, and they in some way want to give back also from time to time. And that's the way to do that. So that's a great point to bring up here.
Yeah, it's important to remember because there are folks that, you know, they're living paycheck to paycheck. They would donate to nonprofits if they had spare money. So if they're going to buy this, if they need to buy these products and services anyway, and they know that buying it at a certain place is going to support the causes they believe in, that makes them feel better about buying from your business. And it makes them a loyal customer because they're not just looking at price, they're looking at what you're offering and why you do what you do. And that, again, that's why I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to differentiate yourself not on price, because price customers are not loyal. And we talked about this last week with branding. When Walmart raised their prices, customers walked away because all people thought of them was the low price leader. So you don't want to be relying on that. You want to focus on your service, your quality, and your why, and find the customers that match that. All right, we are just about at the end of our time. So, Chip, what do you think is the big takeaway for this week?
I think we're actually getting back to that word why. What is your why for doing your business? What is your customers' why, potential customers' why for looking for the product or service that you're doing? And how are you going to connect the two of those? And the more you can identify that, obviously it has a whole lot to do with the psychographics. That's where the why comes from. So to me, that's really, really important. We talked a lot about different things and so on and so forth as far as price points and everything else, but it really comes down to that. And just remember, you don't have to go after everybody. The more you put into this homework and identifying your avatar and your why and how you are bringing value added to what you're doing and stick to what you're going to get for what you're doing, that's really what it's all about.
I couldn't agree more. I think the big takeaway is know your why, know your customers' why. When your whys match, that's what makes a good customer for you. And again, as much as we'd like to say, our products or services are good for everybody, there is a specific avatar that is going to be attracted to your business, and that all focuses around your why. You've been listening to the Success Showcase. You can catch us every week at xvadio.com/podcasts, the Apple Podcasts app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Amazon Music, Audible, and wherever you find podcasts. Remember, make this your best week ever and make next week even better. We'll see you then.